Hi, I'm Daniel Fisher here at Sweetwater Sound, and today I'm really excited to show you the UNO Synth. It's a fully analog synth by IK Multimedia that can run on batteries, 4 AA's, or a USB power supply, or you can connect it directly to your computer. And when it's connected to your computer, it comes with free editing software for both Mac and PC. There's also free software for the iPad and the iPhone. Both of those connect via the USB connection. And what is it? It's a 2-oscillator, all-analog synth with a 2-pole analog resonant filter. It has 2 envelopes, one for amp, one for filter. It has an LFO. It has a really cool 16-step sequencer that not only lets you do 16 notes, but each step can have up to 20 parameter modulations per step. So you can go absolutely nuts with 20 passes and control everything. All of that is transmitted via MIDI so that you can use this to sequence something else, or you can play it into your DAW. You can also use the editing software in your DAW. So it's extraordinarily flexible. It's got an audio in, so you can bring other instruments into it, so you only need one cable going to your amp. And it has little breakout cables for both MIDI in and MIDI out, and that's really important because both the sequencer and the arpeggiator can run external devices as well as the internal device simultaneously. So, wow, right? So, let me just play a little bit of it. I'm going to use, first I'll use the pad, and I gotta say, I really like the touch surface of this. Unlike a DX7 or a Moog Source or something where they're little switches underneath that eventually the plastic's going to wear out. This is a solid surface, and it's just capacitance that senses your finger touches. So it's going to last forever in terms of the interface, and it actually surprisingly works really well as a keyboard. And it's 2 octaves, so they fit quite a bit in there, but it's a true analog synth. So right here I have a 88-note controller. This is the Studiologic NUMACompact 2, which I can also run on an external power supply, so I can still stay battery powered. But check out the range. And from the front panel, I can change wave shapes, and both of the oscillators can go from triangle to saw to square to pulse and everything in between because they're variable oscillators. So I'm going to just have one oscillator on, and I'm just going to sweep through the wave shape. And the way I do that is I just touch the oscillator button, and now I'm in the wave row. And so I got wave 1, wave 2, and then tuning 1, tuning 2. And so here's my wave. So there's a pulse. There's my triangle, and go back to saw. So the first thing I can control are the oscillators. That is in the first row here, and I just touch the oscillator button once, and now I have 4 knobs that'll do wave 1, wave 2, tuning 1, and tuning 2. So on my first wave, I can go from triangle to saw, square, and to pulse. And as you can hear, they're variable. And that's important because I can send several things to modulate that shape of the wave, including an LFO and an envelope. So very, very powerful. And then I can do the tuning of that note. So if I turn the knob a little bit, I can do very fine tuning. And then as soon as I get past the half step, then it moves in intervals, so it's very easy to find like a perfect fifth or something. So I can go an octave up and an octave down. So now I'm going to bring up the second oscillator, and I do that by holding the oscillator button just a little bit longer, and it flashes, and that tells me that I'm looking at the bottom row of this top section, and so I just turn up level. Now I have two oscillators, and if I go back to the top row, I can change the tuning just a little bit on one of them. And I can change the octave of this keyboard by touching octave. So I can get pretty ridiculous. And so now I'm going to go to the next section. I'm going to go to filter, and I could choose what kind of mode I have. I've got a low pass. I've got a high pass. And I've got a bandpass. Then I've got resonance. And if you turn resonance all the way up, this thing will scream. There's also a drive parameter that you can get to on the editor, and I've got it up halfway now. I'm going to go all the way, and this should be pretty out of control. And then on the third row, I have envelope control. So I have control over the attack and decay of the filter, and the attack and release of the amplifier. And if you want full ADSR control over the filter and ADSR control over the amp, you just hold the filter button, and now these knobs are ADSR, and if you hold the envelope button, that becomes ADSR for the amplifier. So you actually have full control right from the front panel. And the last row is LFO, which lets you send an LFO to both the filter and pitch at different amounts or not at all. The first knob lets you choose wave, and the wave shapes are sine, triangle, saw, ramp, random, and noise. So some powerful stuff there. I'll send it to pitch. And then, like I said, you can also send that to filter or only to filter. You have separate amounts for both. So just ridiculous power from the front panel. Then from the editing software, we've also got the ability to throw in noise. So some other things that you can control from the software is what a mod wheel would do. Now this doesn't have a mod wheel, but it accepts CC number 1. You can also use the mod wheel that's on any of the editors. And so I can just do a vibrato. And I can set the depth of that. I can set how much faster it gets as I go up. So I can start slow. And as I turn it up, so now I can vary. I can also have the mod wheel do tremolo. Or I can have it do, they're calling it wah, basically control over the filter. again, it doesn't matter where it's coming from. And I can even set what velocity does. I can have velocity change the volume, the filter envelope, or even the LFO rate. It's ridiculous. But I'm going to move on. So some other panel buttons. I have a dive amount, so I can do like a little dive. I can do a scoop. I can do vibrato from the front panel. I speed that up. I can do wah and tremolo. So I can set any combination of those to go onto the mod wheel. I can also individually touch them from here, and I can do that when the sequencer arpeggiator is running, which we really should talk about now because it's very exciting. All you have to do is just touch the ARP button and either play on the pad itself, and you could choose from 10 different patterns. So you can do up, you can do down and down and up and down, repeating on both ends or not. You can do random, you can do as played, the order that you play it. So it's a really powerful arpeggiator. And this is particularly important because not only will it play the internal sounds, but it will also send all that information out via MIDI. So first we'll just play internally. And I'm going to use the hold button to keep everything staying here. So here it is with 1 octave, 2, 3, and 4. And it doesn't matter if the notes for the arpeggiation are coming from the keypad on the device or from MIDI. So I'm going to turn the hold on, play a chord here. And again, you're hearing the built-in internal delay. So just ridiculously powerful. And then you have a sequence for every one of the 100 presets. As I mentioned before, it's not just 16 sequence notes. Every step of the 16-step sequencer can have 20 controller changes for pretty much every parameter that's on the synth. So the important thing to understand about the sequencer is not only does it play its own internal sounds, but it sends MIDI externally. So I have this piano device, I have it MIDI to and from it, and I can play this with the sequencer. And I can also do that with an arpeggiator. Some really powerful things that you can do. So next thing I'm going to do is hook this up. I'm going to take MIDI out of that. So now I have the output of the CS going into the UNO. I have the MIDI coming out of the CS going into the UNO, and then I have the MIDI out of the UNO coming back to this. So I can have sounds coming from this. And I can have a lead synth on top. But even more exciting is that I can have an arpeggiation that's triggered by this, sent to this, and then sent back to this. And remember, that's still all battery operated because this can run on batteries, that can run on batteries. So just crazy possibilities with this thing. So one of the things I always love to do with an analog synth is to take a resonant filter and sweep the cutoff through a ping pong stereo delay. The delay on this is monaural, so I brought a Flashback by TC Electronic and I have it in ping pong mode. But check this out, it's just a great way to test oscillators and filters. But it's important to know that at no other time in this video was I using anything other than the delay that was built in, but I had to try that at least once. So I'm thinking I've got a battery-powered analog synthesizer. I have a guitar that doesn't need batteries, and I have the Sonus G2M Universal Guitar to MIDI Converter. This is basically a little box. You put a 1/4 inch from your guitar on one end, you put MIDI from the other end. It takes a 9-volt battery, and it will just send monophonic notes to my monophonic synth. And it should just work. And I can change octaves. One octave down, one octave up. And I can send them both up an octave. So I've been programming this the last couple of days, and I've been doing some classic rock songs that I just love to do on synths. Here's a couple. And then another one of my favorites. And then this last one, this was really neat. Because you can edit every step for every knob, I could change the tuning of the oscillators apart from each other per step, which lets me almost simulate duophony. And so I made this. And we're going to include all the patches that I made as a bonus, and that will come with the UNO Synth. If you have any further questions about the UNO Synth, please contact your Sweetwater sales engineer. My name is Daniel Fisher. Thank you very much for watching.